February 9th, 2022, 9:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm in the control room of the Beijing Winter Olympics. As executive producer of NBC's Olympics coverage, I oversee the production of the Games, and I'm responsible for everything viewers see on the screen. I'm not in a good mood. These COVID-era Olympics have been grabbing headlines for empty stadiums, athletes en masse, and geopolitical issues. But as fortune would have it, we had circled this night on the Olympic calendar literally years before, because it featured Michaela Schifrin, the legendary American alpine skier and a favorite for gold. Tonight needs to be a game changer. We desperately need Michaela to deliver one of those feel-good Olympic moments that the Games are known for. And Michaela needs to win this slalom race for her own mental health and legacy. The past 2 years have been tumultuous for her, with the unexpected passing of her father. And to make things more dramatic, she failed to finish her first race just 48 hours earlier. P.S. I've gotten to know her. She's a caring, daring human being, so deep down inside, I'm pulling for her on a personal level. I pace excitedly in the control room as our announcers frame what's at stake. She loads into the gate, and then she's off, roaring down the hill. But just 5 seconds into her race, she loses her balance, shockingly skis off the course, and collapses into the snow. She sits in the snow with her head buried in her hands. I will never forget this image. I yell out to stay on her as our announcers say this is one of the biggest upsets in Olympic alpine history. A minute later, she still hasn't moved, and neither have our cameras. I call for the instant replay to decipher what happened. Is she injured? We don't know. We come out of the replays and she's still sitting there, motionless. I decide we're not going anywhere else. Enter social media, with no shortage of negative opinions, railing that we're not giving Michaela privacy at such a difficult moment. But just as glory and medal podiums all are a central part of the Olympic experience, so too is what the wide world of sports used to call the agony of defeat. So I choose to ignore the reports from the Twitterverse, keep our cameras at a respectful distance, but get ready to interview Michaela. She sits there for another several minutes, which is a lifetime in our business. But to her credit, she appears later in front of the microphones, and she holds back tears and confesses she's, quote, second-guessing the last 15 years and everything I thought I knew about my own skiing. Michaela's Olympics were a bust, and so were NBC's. A few weeks later, I thought about that night, and I realized that this needed to be the end of a difficult chapter of the Olympics in America and indeed the world. My Olympic story began 13 Olympics ago. Coming out of college, I was a sports junkie who just wanted to work in sport television. Not the usual career path for a woman way back in 1990. NBC hired me as an Olympic researcher. Now back then, that was before the internet, so the only way that you could find information about the athletes was to meet them in person. So they handed me a credit card and I traveled the world for 2 years, meeting and interviewing the athletes and identifying the best stories for the network's 1992 Barcelona Olympics. I wound up working on the Olympics and dozens of other sports for the next 30 years or so, doing every imaginable job in sports television. It was my Olympics expertise in particular that carried me higher and higher in the ranks, where I learned one of the most important lessons. The Olympics producers didn't just report, show, and analyze the events. They actually used this voluminous amounts of research to create a secret sauce that makes all of you care about the athletes. We called it storytelling, where we surround these acts of athletic prowess with compelling narratives. we actually transformed the Olympics into something far beyond what's actually happening in the arena. Let me show you some examples. On the surface, big man throws rock far. What we deliver to you, a grandson triumphs in honor of the man who introduced him to the sport. On the surface, Swedish man jumps with a pole high. What we deliver to you, backyard dream realized for a Louisiana family. On the surface, swimmer wins long, boring race. But what we deliver to you, an intimate portrait of an incredible woman who swims around the world in training to become the best in history. Now, we took great pride in our storytelling and collected a warehouse full of awards along the way. But a funny thing happened across the decades. We actually got so good at getting you to care about the athletes and get you invested in their life-defining moments that we noticed that the greater culture had adopted all the things that we were doing. Think about it. Dancing with the Stars, American Idol, The Voice, they all do it, right? Seemingly everyone was storytelling, and everywhere, YouTube, Snap, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. So that was the backdrop in 2019 when my dream opportunity arrived. I was asked to oversee NBC's production of the Olympics. I was excited and inspired to lead this iconic franchise, a movement I truly believed in. So I immediately went to work, trying to find new ways to tell Olympic stories. But just 3 months into my dream job, the pandemic hit. And COVID had a way of disrupting all of our lives, right? It even interrupted the Olympics. So for the next 2 games, 2020 Tokyo and 2022 Beijing, this is what it looked like when the audiences tuned in. Empty stadiums in Athens and mass. And without that traditional uplifting atmosphere, viewership tanked. And while I understood why a global pandemic would dampen enthusiasm for the games, I also questioned whether these lower ratings, were emblematic of something else. For the last 60+ years that they've been televised, the Olympic Games have been a beloved institution in our culture, delivering unmatched ratings. But as with the case of storytelling, our media ecosystem has splintered into a gazillion new pieces. Fragmentation and technology have led American consumers to view news, sports, and entertainment in new, disruptive ways. And if that wasn't a big enough challenge, guess what? America's political and culture wars they were in full bloom. And I wondered, could the Olympics transcend the rancor? In a country divided by red and blue, could we and Team USA create a truce for 17 days that would celebrate red, white, and blue? I desperately hope so. But the days of the Olympics just showing up and being automatically relevant to everyone were over. So we needed a comprehensive new vision to restore America's interest in the Games. The 2024 Paris Games. All too suddenly, the stakes were never higher. But let's be clear, we had a little wind at our backs. I mean, Paris was a dream host city with a planned opening ceremony on the Seine River. The city's iconic sites were transformed into telegenic venues, and we had an abundance of American superstars. LeBron, Steph, Coco, Simone Biles, Katie Ledecky, just to name a few. But they were not enough. They were not going to create this new era in Olympic storytelling. That was up to us. It was our job to redefine the Games for a whole new generation of fans. All of you. So allow me to share some of the ideas that we use to try to return the Olympics to center stage in the American consciousness. Our first move was to get the celebrities who you listen to, who dominate your social media feeds, talking about the Olympics. and connect them to athlete stories. The biggest stars on the planet, Beyonce, Taylor, SZA, Sabrina, Lily Collins, just to name a few, all said yes, because they realized that they wanted to be affiliated with the biggest event in the world. Up next, we gave you the remote control. In the past, NBC decided where and when you would watch the Olympics. I knew it was a risk to give up some control, but I'm so glad we did because we've revolutionized our coverage. For starters, we played every event live for folks who wanted to watch it live, while also packaging the most popular sports in prime time for folks that wanted to watch it that way. Beyond that, viewers could customize their experience. You could watch the Olympics like the NFL with a whip-around show. You could even watch sports simultaneously with a multi-view. You could even watch women's sports with podcaster Alex Cooper and her daddy gang. And remember that athlete storytelling playbook? We overhauled that as well, using fewer distant narrators and elevating the athletes' own voices. Still, I don't think I can articulate to you how nervous I was and how much pressure I felt on the day of opening ceremony. We had prepared for what we could control, we had a dynamic new plan, and 3,000 passionate TV professionals ready to go. The parting advice I gave the greater team was, be ready for anything, and I couldn't have been more prescient. Because on the day of opening ceremony, the uncontrollable did happen. It rained on our parade. I mean, pouring, literally pouring. And I thought to myself for a second, was the bad luck of Tokyo and Beijing going to dog Paris as well? Were the Olympics star-crossed? Because one of the most anticipated aspects of the entire opening ceremony was a boat parade at sunset. But to their credit, the athletes all showed up despite the weather. And it was at that moment that we realized that their enthusiasm for this day and this Olympics wasn't to be denied. They embraced the weather and danced through the lightning strikes. Joy had returned to the Olympics, and we were off. The first night of competition was equally euphoric, featuring a signature asset we put into play, a secret weapon to inject more fun and levity into our coverage. This guy. Against most people's advice, I hired Snoop Dogg to be our chief cheerleader. For his first assignment, I sent him to the swimming venue where the USA was supposed to win its first gold medal at the Games. Caleb Dressel, a 5-time Olympic champion, was swimming the anchor leg for the American men's relay. Snoop was seated next to his wife Megan and their newborn son August. So the race began, we had a camera trained on Snoop and Megan, and as predicted, Caleb closed strongly to win the relay, gold medal USA. Snoop screamed, Megan cried, they excitedly embraced, and baby Dressel, nicknamed Augie Doggy by Snoop that night, slept through it all. Later, we played back scenes, Snoop, hand over his heart, proudly singing the national anthem. He got emotional, and truth be told, so did our control room. The biggest, riskiest swing was working. And for the remainder of the games, Snoop didn't grab the spotlight for himself. He reflected it onto the athletes. One reporter wrote he was, quote, feel-good counter-programming to the culture wars. He was the X factor in rallying this country around the Olympics and Team USA, the closest thing we had to a national mascot. And in doing so, he brought millions of new fans to the Olympics. And also, he really was a central part on how we launched a new era in Olympic storytelling. Once again, the Olympics dominated the zeitgeist, and crucially, so did our American athletes. Simone Biles recaptured the all-around title in gymnastics. Noah Lyles became the fastest man in the world on the track, and the U.S. men's and women's basketball teams cruised to gold. The Paris Olympics were a triumph on countless levels. Afterwards, I reflected on why they must endure. They're ultimately about us, the best of us. They captivate us, they teach us, they inspire us. And as caretakers of the games, we can never take that for granted. The Milan Cortina Winter Games are just under 3 months away, and we have to keep innovating, we have to keep challenging ourselves. And guess who's returning? Michaela Schifrin. She too has bounced back to become the all-time winningest skier. And then in 2028, the Olympics arrive in the United States to Los Angeles. A home games for America will be a rare opportunity to bring together a country that desperately needs a reason to cheer together and unite. I believe in the Olympics, and it's power to do just that. I hope you do too. Thank you.